in the fields of technology and entrepreneurship. HF graduate from the class of 1983, Steve Sarowitz has not only carved a remarkable path for himself, but has also become an inspirational figure for aspiring young minds. Today, we look forward to uncovering the invaluable insights and reflections he brings from his incredible journey. His return to HF provides a unique opportunity for students and faculty alike to gain first-hand knowledge from a visionary leader whose roots lie in the very hallways and classrooms that continue to foster growth and excellence. It is with this great enthusiasm that we welcome esteemed HF alumnus Steve Sarowitz to our Viking television studios. First of all, welcome back. What is it like walking the halls of HF?
It's wonderful to be back. It's great. I love kids and like you, and I love to see the energy, the youthful energy, and the, it's like you're just getting into life, and you have all this hope and promise, and I love to see that, and I'm really happy to come here and give back a little bit.
So how often are you able to get back into the area where you grew up?
Very rarely. I was here for my reunion, my 40th reunion. Now I'm aging myself.
Yeah, I saw that.
But not as, I'm in Chicago area quite a bit.
Reflecting at your time at a high school, what were your most influential experiences that helped shape you?
Well, running cross country, that was my favorite thing to do. Actually getting injured my senior year and not being able to, I broke my foot, and not being able to complete my senior year of cross country influenced me because it took me on a different path. I wanted to run in college. I probably would have run in college had I not been injured. And it took me and probably ended up making me an entrepreneur. It opened me up a little bit. I was very shy before I got injured, and afterwards I couldn't run anymore. So I used to, every time I was upset, I'd just go run. And since I couldn't run, I had to actually learn how to talk to people. And so that was very interesting. I remember I had some very good teachers. I had one teacher in particular, Mr. Pine. I still remember his name, which is pretty good 40 years later. He was a history teacher. And I used to turn in, I was kind of a mediocre student. I was very smart, but I wasn't a really hard worker. And I turned in my papers and he'd give me an A-, and I was perfectly happy with that. And then one day he gave me a C+. And I remember, I used to turn in B+ papers. I just wanted a B, and that's all I cared about. And I got mad, and he actually made me work hard enough to write the best paper I'd ever written. And I realized that he'd found a way to motivate me to actually, he kind of realized. He also used to ask me in class, he used to ask me questions all the time. I would never read until like 2 days before the test, and he would ask me questions every time until 2 days before the test when he knew I'd started reading, and he would never ask me a question then. So he was one of the teachers that got me. And I remember I had an art teacher, Mr. Kirkpatrick, and he gave us a blank piece of paper and said, draw anything you want. And everyone was so scared because we're so used to being instructed. Yeah. And I really think that's a great exercise for, I think every teacher should do that. Here's a blank piece of paper, make what you want, and realize that is really more of life. Life isn't always scripted.
And so I know you mentioned your injury. What are the challenges you faced early on into your career that your high school experience helped you overcome?
Well, HF is a really good school, so I had a good high school background. U of I was not much of a challenge for me after HF. I think from my career, the biggest thing that helped me was being an entrepreneur, was not being afraid of taking risks. So I think just having the chance to go to a good high school like this, to be well supported in high school, kind of gave me the confidence to go out and think that I could do anything I wanted. And I think that's something that's even more true today. I think this is an amazing school.
So as a successful entrepreneur, what motivated you to start your business?
I wanted to become rich, and that was how I started. When I was young, I was a young man. I wanted to be the most successful. I wanted to be rich. I think very differently now. And I just assumed that was going to happen. It's probably silly looking back to think how confident I was back then. I realize now that I was just very lucky, and that there's no, I could have worked just as hard and been just as smart and not been as successful, but I think I've just been a very lucky person.
So in the field that you're in now, with the industry and technology evolving, how do you stay up to date, and what advice do you have for current students interested in your field?
Well, which field? Because I'm a philanthropist.
A businessman.
So I think you should always know what you're doing. Don't go into a business that you don't know. I went into the restaurant business many years ago not knowing much about the restaurant business, and I failed pretty miserably, spectacularly. If you're going to go into any type of business, go and learn it first. Go work for someone first. Know the business you're going into. If you're going to go into a business, create a value that differentiates you from other people. And don't be afraid of failure. Most people like me who've been very successful have also had a few failures. And failure is okay. Failure is a way to learn.
And you've been involved in a lot of philanthropy and social initiatives. What motivated you to be involved in those type of things?
I'm very influenced by my faith. I'm a very dedicated Baha'i. And the Baha'i faith teaches that money should be at the service of the world. And that's really what I believe. I believe that my money is really not my money, but it's really God's money. And that money should be invested to make the world a better place. That all of us, one of the tenets of the Baha'i faith, or the major thrust of the Baha'i faith, is that we're one human family. And so if some of us, I liken us to flowers in a garden. If some flowers have had a little less sun and a little less water, not through any fault of their own, it's up to me as a philanthropist to spread the excess that I have in a way that will make that garden more equitable and just and fair for everybody. So to that end, the majority of the funds that I give away to nonprofits are to organizations that are run and help BIPOC, people of color, and women. And that's because life is not necessarily just. And so it's trying to correct injustices.
So I know you mentioned earlier about the high school curriculum, and considering the technological advancements that are happening, do you think HF, what suggestions do you have for HF involving the curriculum with technology?
Well, I think bring people in who are in technology to talk, to forge partnerships with companies and people that are in the technology field, I think is really good. As many practical internships and things like that HF can have, and kind of interacting with the technology community would be great.
Looking back at, I know you mentioned your other teacher that really helped you and pushed you to be more outgoing. Do you have any other teachers or personal experiences at HF that really shaped you to be the person that you are now? Just the fact when I was running, running is a very solitary sport. It's a team sport, but it's also solitary. And I think I've always been in a lot of ways like a runner in that I just keep going. And I think what helped me in my business is there were times where it was tough. There were times where the business wasn't going well. And I just kept going. And I looked at it as more of a marathon than a sprint. And so I think I have a distance runner's mentality towards life. Same thing with movies as well. Being the distance runner that you are, what advice do you have for students that are uncertain about their life after graduation? Don't
worry. I was uncertain. By the time I was 29 years old, I'd accumulated a net worth of 0, which, by the way, is not something you should aspire to. But I kept going. And, you'll eventually find your path. Work hard. Hard work never hurts. Don't try to impress people. You save money if you can. So be fiscally responsible, work hard, and never, ever give up your values. In other words, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't do things. Always be a good person. That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you have. We all go to the next world with nothing. We can't take our money with us. So be a good person. That's what we're here to be.
So you've done so much for yourself and for the world. So what's next in your life?
Well, I've got a lot of movies. We're in the process of selling Will and Harper. I can't give the details of that on air, but we're doing very well with that film. We've got 2 standing ovations at Sunset. We have It Ends With Us coming out in July. We're very excited about that. June 21st. That's our biggest movie right now. So I'm going to still work on the movie business. We're working on a movie now, or we will be, with Scarlett Johansson. I'm very excited about that. I think continuing to expand my philanthropy. My goal is to give away the great majority of my fortune. I'm now 58, so in the next 14 years, I want to give away the great majority. So there's a lot of work to do that properly. By the way, don't ask me for money. I only do it through my foundation, and we only do it to nonprofits. And we actually choose the nonprofits we give to.
That's amazing. Well, Steve Sarwitz, another success story coming from the halls of HF home of Baltimore High School. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us here today. We wish you continued success and appreciate what you've done for Home with Baltimore and the community. Reporting for VTV, I'm Jasmine Walker.